I thank the representative of St. Vincent and the Grenadines for her statement. Now I give the floor to the representative of the Russian Federation.
Mr. President, we thank China for the initiative to consider such an important issue as the root causes of conflicts and post-conflict recovery in Africa. Our meeting would create an even better impression if it were held face-to-face. We thank the Secretary General, the chairperson of the African Union Commission, as well as the UNDP administrator for their briefings. The relevance of our discussion is evidenced by the fact that the Security Council devotes the lion's share of its discussions, up to 70%, to crises in African countries, which are often complicated by such threats as terrorism, organized crime, drug trafficking, illegal arms trafficking, and illegal exploitation of natural resources. Meanwhile, the UN Security Council has a very clear mandate established by the UN Charter, which entails the maintenance of international peace and security where other instruments no longer work. We often hear proposals for the Council to consider the interrelationship between the maintenance of security, development, protecting human rights, political, economic, climate, and other factors. We believe that such discussions about the theoretical interdependence of various processes should be left to the academic community. The efforts of UN system entities should instead focus on practical solutions to problems within existing mandates. At the same time, while assisting stabilization and seeking ways to overcome crises in their acute phase, it is necessary to keep in mind the root causes of conflicts. And they are indeed multifaceted. They include ethnic and religious tensions, arbitrarily drawn borders, underdevelopment, which cannot be overcome without access to technology, fragile state institutions, and many more. In many ways, in Africa, these are a consequence of countries' colonial past, but unfortunately, its consequences have not been overcome everywhere. Moreover, in the meantime, colonialism is taking on new forms. In addition to unfair trade policies and restricted access to markets and technologies, it is characterized by active interference in the internal affairs of states. And if pressure on sovereign governments fails to bring results, the sword of Damocles of illegal, unilateral, coercive measures will hang over their heads. We are convinced that these factors have not only become a catalyst for the significant lagging behind of many African states, but that they continue to impede the swift recovery of economies and prevent the continent states from acquiring true independence. Mr. President, it is encouraging that in spite of the above, Africa, guided by the principle of African solutions to African problems, is independently traversing an important path. We note the efforts of the African Union, its Peace and Security Council, the NEPAD Development Agency, as well as those of sub-regional organizations. The states of the continent have set ambitious goals to end all armed conflicts and implement the socioeconomic, Agenda 2063. In recent years, Africans, with the support of the UN and the international community, have undertaken significant efforts to identify and overcome factors of instability through a range of tools, including early warning and response, preventive diplomacy and mediation, good offices, and confidence building measures. Of course, international support for reducing conflict potential through socioeconomic recovery remains in great demand. We believe that it should be provided based on national priorities. Such work should be aimed not just at patching gaps, but rather at creating a sustainable, self-sufficient model, and they should include attracting technology and expertise, developing the industrial and agricultural sectors, rebuilding key infrastructure, creating jobs, and strengthening healthcare and social welfare systems. Or in short, balanced progress across all three pillars of sustainable development: economic, social, and environmental. We cannot agree with the trend of isolating climate change issues from this triad. This approach distracts from the root causes of conflict and also shifts the priorities for providing assistance to states. Mr. President, recently, problems on the African continent as well as around the world have been significantly aggravated by the coronavirus pandemic, which has had the greatest impact on developing and conflict-afflicted states. That is why the demand to cease hostilities and engage in a humanitarian pause contained in Security Council Resolution 2532 is of particular relevance for the continent. Crisis-stricken countries are unable to independently provide the necessary medical assistance to their populations and ensure economic recovery while restrictive measures are in place. They require targeted and effective support from the international community. In this context, we consider it important to demonstrate genuine solidarity in combating the disease and its negative impacts, including in Africa. This implies a rejection of approaches based on partisan interests, so-called vaccine nationalism, and the politicization of the fight against the common challenge represented by the pandemic. Instead, it is necessary to jointly use all available opportunities and means to provide countries on the continent with real access to medicines for coronavirus treatment and to assist their development. Mr. President, Russia is actively helping African states to overcome the impact of the pandemic through both bilateral and multilateral channels. Almost 24 countries on the African continent have already approved the use of the Russian Sputnik V vaccine, and protective equipment as well as other necessary goods continue to be supplied to countries in need. Significant volumes of Russian humanitarian and development assistance pass through the UN system. As a permanent member of the Security Council, Russia will continue to make a significant contribution to the international community's efforts to develop a strategic approach to strengthening peace and stability in Africa, resolving current conflicts, and preventing the emergence of new ones. We are focusing the Security Council's efforts on elaborating clear and realistic mandates for its missions and ensuring strict control over their implementation. We will continue training African military and police personnel, including peacekeepers, through specialized Russian institutions. We are open to constructive and equitable cooperation with African countries, as well as leading regional and sub-regional organizations on the continent. We trust that strengthening our traditionally friendly and time-tested relations will be facilitated by by yet another high-level Russia-Africa summit. Thank you.
可以挂了。我感谢俄罗斯代表的发言。我想
I thank the Russian representative for the statement. I would like